Starting in 1993, the Jurassic Park film franchise has spawned 6 films in total, numerous video games of varying qualities, an animated TV show, and more. It all came from the mind of Michael Crichton, whose book was captured by the imagination of Steven Spielberg. They went on to make the first movie, and then after that was a success, Hollywood wanted more. So Crichton went on to write another book, just so it could be turned into a movie. Like I said, there are now 6 of those movies, with Dominion, the 6th, being touted as the finale. Let's face it though, where there's money, there's definitely no ending. But let's take it at face value and go through all of the Jurassic Park and World movies thus far, putting them from worst to best, ranked. After the park closed again, the dinosaurs were left on the island to roam free. All was well, or as well as could be, until the island suddenly got a volcano that also very suddenly started to erupt. Claire and Owen returned to the island to rescue as many of the endangered species as they possibly could. But they weren't the only ones going back to the island. A group of bad people were also sent to retrieve the dinosaurs, but not to rescue them. Instead, they were going to sell them for bargain prices. Fallen Kingdom is incredibly fast-paced and exciting and thrilling. The first half of the movie very quickly establishes what's going on and why the main characters do what they must do. The pace and speed of things helps one overlook the words and actions of the characters in the film. Because if for 1 second you think about what is going on or what is being said and done, the film falls apart. In short, the people don't act or speak like real people, and they lack any sort of intelligence, despite being intelligent people, apparently. The third act of the movie moves things to a mansion in the middle of the woods, where a secretive, shady auction takes place, and the heroes must once again rescue the dinosaurs. It's fun. This section amps up the horror tropes, doing a decent job at it too. But we also get much more science fiction here, from dinosaurs trained to attack lasers to full-on human clones. The stupid factor really builds up throughout this film. The believability vanishes, and while the action and set pieces work well, the characters in the story just fall apart. This is the first film in the franchise that makes it very clear that things have evolved and moved on from the original trilogy of movies. We're now purely into spectacle-packed, flashy, action-filled blockbuster territory, for better and for worse. But mostly for worse.
See? Not so bad.
Dominion is the finale of the whole franchise, bringing the stories and characters of the original trilogy together with the story and characters of the new trilogy. On paper, that sounds like a very cool and fun idea, and the movie does its best to make that a reality. There are numerous problems with Dominion. The major one is that of the dialogue. The dialogue of Dominion is some of the worst ever put onto film. Characters speak like robots, reciting events and pointing out the obvious. It makes for a very unnatural and bizarre form of filmmaking and storytelling. And it feels like the script was rushed, focusing far more on set pieces and excitement than on character and on story. Speaking of the characters in the story, these aren't good either. The characters are bare basic and underdeveloped. The original cast being back is a good thing. They are more interesting and more engaging than the new cast of characters, but their inclusion is explained poorly. Their screen time is limited, and they don't always have a lot to say or do. The original cast gets a lot of the attention and the action scenes are mostly dedicated to them. The story meanwhile has two arcs. One that feels like a bad Mission Impossible script featuring dinosaurs, and another that focuses on an end-of-the-world level threat. Neither are all that inspired or original, and it's not until these stories emerge towards the final act of the film at the back end of the movie that the movie starts to become fun and entertaining and enjoyable. It's quite boring before that happens in actuality. The film is fun and enjoyable on the whole, after a while. The action and the thrills are also pretty good if repetitive and unnecessary. And those are the only reasons I put this movie above Fallen Kingdom. After the success of the first Jurassic Park movie, a sequel was in demand. However, the first movie had a book to base itself upon. The sequel did not. So the producers turned to writer Michael Crichton and asked him to write a sequel, which he did. They then made the sequel to the movie, loosely basing it on that book. The sequel to Jurassic Park is an admirable attempt to extend the franchise out, bringing back Jeff Goldblum, one of the more popular elements of the first movie, and giving him and the larger cast of characters a reason to return to the island. This time around, it's a rescue mission. Ian Malcolm wants to find his ex. Why? I don't know, she's sort of annoying and possibly the worst thing about this movie. But it does give him some sort of motivation. Along the way, a group of game hunters comes along. They cross paths. There are some cool action moments and set pieces, and then they leave the island, going to the dark, boring San Diego. Nothing against San Diego, that's just how it's presented in the film. The movie falls apart as it progresses, with most of its characters being annoying and frustrating, and the story progressively becoming more and more boring. Luckily, the effects and the thrills continue to work well.
They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
Jurassic Park 3 is an unusual entry into the franchise, in that it focuses a lot more on the thrills and the roller coaster mentality of set pieces instead of the characters and the story. It focuses so much on these elements and not the latter, the result being a brisk, energetic 1 hour, 25-minute movie. It's the sort of movie that rushes along with high and low moments and then it just stops. There isn't enough story in Jurassic Park 3. The main group of characters end up on the island in search of a missing child. Some aren't even there by choice, they just happen to be with the group. They then find the child and escape. That's it. It's totally standalone except for the inclusion of Alan Grant, who is great once again as the grouchy, child-avoidant paleontologist. The action and the thrills and the special effects are fantastic, some of the best in the franchise. These really elevate Jurassic Park 3. The characters are also okay in comparison to the prior two movies, but that's mostly because of the good cast that's playing the parts. The problem is that the breakneck pace that doesn't allow much room for character or story to form, and the rush towards an ending. If what you want is a thrill ride of a movie, this will satisfy you. But beyond those thrills, there's not a lot of actual substance to be had with Jurassic Park 3. But unlike some of the prior movies, the simplicity of the story is superior to the bonkers, head-scratching stories of those movies.
She will kill anything that moves.
Oh, God.
After 3 movies and an extended break, it seemed as though the franchise was over. For years, Spielberg and the producers tried to find the right way of bringing it back and continuing it. Eventually, Colin Trevorrow showed up and he became the guy to do it, along with his writing buddy Derek Connolly. So, what did they do? They rebooted the franchise, bringing new life and energy and technology into the Jurassic Park franchise. But how did they do that? Well, they basically made a modern remake of the first movie, with different characters, that also acknowledged what came before. Apparently, nobody learned from the past mistakes of the first movie, so they just rebuilt the park, called it a world, and tried again. Okay, it's a tough sell, but I'll take it for now. Whether you like or dislike the lack of originality on display, Jurassic World is a very formidable remake or reboot. It has all the thrills and the visual spectacle and a cool score on top of it all. It doesn't always feel like a natural continuation of what came before it. Some of the characters and the story elements are a bit stupid, and most of the cast are unlikable, but it works. It's fun overall, it's energetic, and it's well crafted. It turns out rebooting a franchise by essentially remaking a near perfect movie is safe and successful way of doing things. After all, if it ain't broke.
You sure we're safe?
Yes. Unless they figured out how to open doors.
Jurassic Park.
As I just mentioned before, Jurassic Park is a near perfect movie, and as such it had to be number 1. This was the one that started it all and redefined what a modern blockbuster movie could be. It showcased special effects never before seen. It had all the thrills, the horror, the excitement, and the family entertainment you could possibly want. Unlike some of the sequels, the movie also had strong themes and messaging, brilliantly conveyed. The story had substance. There were decent bad guys there as well. Lots of cool moments and characters also. It's highly quotable, with memorable lines of dialogue, memorable characters, scenes, and moments. The main cast of characters were very likeable, if a little underdeveloped in certain regards, and quite possibly that's the only real weakness of this movie. Spielberg was in top form in the director's seat, perfectly capturing the action, focusing on what mattered most and balancing the spectacle with the charm and the smaller moments as well. John Williams came along with an iconic score that perfectly set the mood and tone, establishing the awe, the excitement and the amazement of the movie, and the characters and moments in it. Jurassic Park is a roller coaster of a movie, one that rises and falls repeatedly, never becoming stale or boring, with depth and layers to its story, making it more than many of its sequels ever aspired to be. And if you've liked this video of the Jurassic Park rankings, which is now over by the way, you can subscribe to my channel to get more content like this, including other rankings of other movies and franchises, films and so on and so forth. And of course, subscribe to this channel, it's the best way to do things. But follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well at @the_Graham Burton. Until next time though, thanks for watching.